Welcome, everybody. We are back here at Dealership Digest. I am your host, Chris Polino, with my host, Tia Lentini. What are
Hi,
we talking
everyone.
about today, Tia?
We are talking about the millennial buyer today.
Exactly. And we brought a host because Katie O'Toole Smith, Katie the car lady, as she's referred by, knows a lot about the millennial buyer, knows a lot about helping dealerships sell to the millennial buyer, and just make sure that their websites, their marketing, and everything is speaking to those millennial buyers so they can sell more units at their dealership. So, welcome to the show, Katie.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on too because we know that dealerships are having troubles with millennial buyers. They don't understand how to talk to them, they don't understand how to sell to them, and because of that, they're missing out on a lot of deals. So, what do you think they could do?
Well, there's quite a few things that I've noticed in not only dealing with millennials, but also having children who are millennials, right? And they teach me, and I watch them interact, how they purchase things, how they interact with everything. And one of the things I think that this, we talked about having a candid conversation. And one of the things I think dealerships need to really think about changing the conversation they're having. What words are they using? What is their tone like? And some of that also has to do with, can they set aside sometimes some ego and pride, very frankly, right? Because that's some of that is archaic, very frankly, but they can do it. They have the tools, and also being able to learn from maybe some people in their dealership that are younger than they are, right? Being willing to learn and be teachable. But definitely adapting to technology and transparency and giving information 100%.
What do you think some simple, practical things that dealerships can do? Maybe like five practical things they could do to help them on this journey of appealing to the millennial buyer.
I think there's a lot. The first thing is, like, when a lot of people walk into a dealership, they feel tense, right? They feel like, oh God, this guy's going to come over to me and I don't want to answer the questions that he's going to ask me or she, whatever. So maybe it's a, how can I help you? Right? How can we help you? How can we understand what you're looking for? So maybe it's changing the question sometimes of like, hey, you're looking to buy a car, we're looking to sell a car. Let's sit down and see how that works, if we're a good fit for each other. And what they're doing is opening a door for to empower the consumer, that young person, right? And say, hey, tell me about, and coming at it in a much more wanting to understand, empathetic way. That's one of the biggest things. The second thing is total transparency. Just put it out there. I really believe, I don't know what the percentages are, but I know it's a lot. If that person walks out of the dealership, like the percentages of them coming back are like so small. It shrinks to like nothing, right? Um,
Yeah.
but here's the deal. If you change the conversation and how you're having it versus having a desk where I'm here and you're there, maybe you change how that looks and invite them in. Like, so instead of calling people out, you're calling them in. And I think that if they do that, that will make them want to sit down, be comfortable, put their shoulders down, and share information that you need to know if you're going to get them to buy a car. Like, that's just reality, right? So the other thing is, really think about what is in their best interest. Find out what their pain is. I mean, that's old school. What is their pain, right? In any industry. Here's the thing though, they hear differently than people used to hear back then. And they also communicate differently. So those things are like, hey, let's talk about that. Is it, how can I serve? Would you like a cup? And is it, as little as it sounds or simple as it sounds, it is making them feel like they have control of the conversation. 100%. And if you can do that, that's a big deal. Also, understanding their technology, understanding what they're doing.
Totally.
So if they're reading blogs and they're listening to podcasts, have your sales guy reading blogs and listening to podcasts. Make it a game, right? The other thing I will say is that if you have millennials who are your salespeople, you have an edge. Use them. Like, you're missing the boat if you're taking them into a room and putting them and writing on a whiteboard and saying you have to make these goals. That's not going to work. It's the same conversation. It's the opposite end of the same stick, right? So it's those are some, because they want service. They want to buy a car, but we have to realize that it's not the same as it was 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It is a different conversation. They want to be educated. And I think the more that it is dealers, whoever is listening, if they will educate their buyers and even their salespeople, they will get more deals. I guarantee that. Like 100%, I've seen it in my own personal journey with that. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Tia and I were just looking at Carvana, and one of the things I think about Carvana that makes it different, or that, the only reason people are shopping at Carvana rather is, like you said, they're scared of that interaction with the salesperson. They're scared to, get hounded as soon as they come through the door. So they're buying vehicles online so they can get rid of the salesperson. And the vehicles we were looking at, it was a Jeep Renegade, a 2015, 42 some thousand miles. It was $5,000
Crazy, right?
overpriced what you could have bought at your local dealership.
Exactly. And
It's crazy. Go ahead.
And some of the reviews, the main reason why people were going to Carvana and using that service is because they didn't want to go to the dealership. They didn't want to deal with the price haggling. They didn't want to deal with the salesperson. So that's like a warning sign to dealerships right there. Like,
pay attention.
Yes.
These people are telling you that they're not liking the experience, so change the experience and be humble enough to do so and listen to like you said, the millennials
that are in there, because they're going to tell you exactly, what they like, how they think, and just by observing them and being humble enough to listen to them,
you're going to have the edge, just like what you said.
Two
So I
things,
totally
like,
agree with that.
as much as dealers hate this, but and I know you guys out there who are dealers hate this, but offer, hey, you know what? Oh, you want to take it to your mechanic? How about if I take this car to your mechanic for you? That is such a simple thing to have your port. Oh, really? You'll do that for me? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now you've taken them out of the market, right?
And
Now,
it shows you trust your products. It shows you back your
right.
products. You're
And
ready to, hey, I'll take it to any mechanic you want.
Listen, I tell consumers right away, if a dealer won't let them take it to a mechanic, I don't buy it. Right. So there lies that. The other thing is they don't like confrontation. They don't like the confrontation. And there's a book called I think it's called Crucial Conversations, which is great for salespeople to read. Also, I'm gonna go old school, Dale Carnegie. I'm telling you, it's old school, but it is so good. And these are things that go back to just kindness and being patient, these really simple things that millennials, they want service. So believe it or not, little things like if you have a Keurig machine and you've got treats, as silly as it sounds, that means something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's funny.
But it's true.
You're right. You're totally right. Because I know when I go in somewhere, if they have like treats or even like a hair salon that like offers wine while you sit there, it's
something extra.
right.
Yeah,
I
because
get a free Starbucks card if I do this. It's very like wanting that reward or wanting something, feeling they're important.
yeah, exactly.
And I think a lot of the time, us millennial buyers, at least I know from my experience, we do our research online, right? We know what car we want, we know what we're ready to pay for it, or we know, what we're looking for. And when we find that dealership that has the car at the right price, with the right miles, with the right trim, or, the vehicle ready to buy, that's where we call. That's where we put the internet lead in, and we're typically, we already know what we want. We're not searching around, and when we call you, it's to make a purchase. Right?
That's right. That's right. It's
Yep.
you're not just testing the waters. You found something you like. The other thing I will say, right, wrong, good or bad, I have found that my millennials, they do, as much as we say don't let your emotions make your financial decisions. They do have some, emotion involved, like, oh, I love this. This makes me feel good. The other thing I'm going to say to dealers is, and this is, I'm sure there's people who aren't going to like this, but stop working off of fear in your F&I office. You're instantly building, the question maybe your salespeople can ask is, okay, am I building a bridge or am I building a wall between these people, right? So, like, when you say, but your car is going to do this and it's going to be terrible and blah, blah, you've already shut them down. They're like, okay, I'm done. Versus saying, hey, you know how this can benefit you? Or, I know it's something you said was interesting to you. It's so about tone, conversation, and understanding that, like you said about True Car, they go to car gurus. I mean, my daughter, it was something else she bought, but she did so much research. It was crazy. And she goes, and I went to reviews and I didn't go to places, she didn't go to the big corporate places. She went to the people who have already bought. And she said, so that's another thing, real reviews, not made up reviews, not reviews you paid for, real reviews from your customers. I will say this, one of the things I do with my customers, and this is a huge thing, whatever, they'll say, oh my God, this is such a great deal. Oh my God, you did such a great job. You know what you ask them for? A review. I will ask them for a review. Hey, you know what I would love? Let's take a selfie. Let's get a review. They love that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and millennials
Those are the ones that are gonna give you that YouTube review.
give you that Facebook review.
Exactly.
They're going to tag you, because they know how to use that. They're going to tweet. They're going to tweet out and tell everyone that's listening.
So
Dealerships, I feel like they need to.
They don't maximize that.
I agree, and I
feel like dealerships really need to pay attention to their website and set their website up to either have like an Instagram feed or like
You have to
something.
have mobile friendly. Has to be mobile friendly. They're not going home and going to their desktop. Like that's not happening. They're with their friends. They're all sitting at Starbucks, Panera, wherever, and they're on the. Oh my God, do you see this car? I saw. Oh my God, look at this. This was awesome. Oh yeah, let's look it up. Let's see what Oh, is it? And they're doing it all from that. So if you don't have an app friendly, that's another thing. If you can find an app or some way to tie your dealership in with an app that's really easy to navigate, that is golden. I mean, you'll tap into people who I really believe that if and I'm not saying all dealers are like this. There's some dealers that have already started to change this conversation. But if there's dealers out there that if they don't, they might as well hand Carvana the keys to all the cars on their lot because we're not going to be needed. Those of us who sell cars will not be needed, and it will happen.
Yeah.
Carvana's not going away.
Yeah. And the consumer is going to take a big hit with that because, as we said, when I was looking at those vehicles, and it was the difference between an all-wheel drive vehicle with 40,000 miles versus a two-wheel drive vehicle with 40,000 miles, and they're $5,000. The two-wheel drive
vehicles $5,000 price higher.
That's crazy. And
on
someone
their
will buy
website,
that
they
vehicle. Someone will buy that vehicle.
yeah,
Car
just so
tax
they
is
don't
the
have to
same
deal
thing.
with a salesperson.
Yeah,
So-
millennials are willing to pay more just to not go through the hassle or the traumatic experience of, traditional
So-
car buying.
And that ties into having kids who are millennials. That ties into they've grown up on technology. So if you're going to be confrontational, you might as well just forget about it. They don't like that conversation. They want to have the conversation about the research that they've done. And if you show interest in them, they want to talk about themselves. There's nothing wrong. We all love to talk about ourselves. But if you can be patient enough to let them do that, you will earn that trust in a short period of time. But you have to do it. The mobile, like you said, the technology part of it, you should have a blog on your website. Like most definitely. If you don't have a YouTube channel, having someone walk around your cars. I mean, if they could, how quick you get somebody, oh my God, look, they're going around it. And that's like gold. That's like gold. So I do know that there's a generation that's older though. They have a hard time seeing the value in technology. That's where the pride and ego comes in. Like being able to.
And I feel like digital advertising.
advertising and stuff like you're saying, like building the content and stuff, the ROI isn't always something that you can track automatically. This might be an asset that you have, that's going to pay off for years to come. It's not going to be a one and done. Like
Mailer, it's going to be something that builds your brand for years, and it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it.
It's so worth it. And I'm so glad you said that. And especially what you said earlier, Tia, about the Instagram feed is that like, that is so key. I know that those people that see my picture and they, oh my God, Katie the car lady, they may not become my customer right away, but it's over term, right? But they remember because I made some fun picture with some fun car with one of my customers, and and that, guess what? That customer is their neighbor or whatever. It doesn't, the point is using that technology, and it can be so fun. You could even make it, if you want to, instead of telling your salespeople, hey, listen, if you do X, Y, and Z by the end of the week, I'll buy lunch. Well, maybe they don't care about lunch. Maybe they care about, hey, get a certain amount of followers or go out there and post a certain amount of posts. Like you said, it's not instant, but if you can look at the big picture of like, I'm building this, it's the pipeline, right? It's the pipeline. It's not back in the day where it's just different than back in the day when those guys were like, the pipeline was very different, right? It was good old boys club. It's not like that. That's not what it is. So, I mean, I think you guys are right on key. And I think you guys, I'm so glad you're talking about this because it's so, I think, important, because the customers that they have that are older, they're going to die. That's just the reality, right? And if you think you can rely on their family to just keep coming to you just because their older family did, that's false and that's foolish. You have
Yeah.
to keep it going.
Yeah. And even things like TikTok, and one good thing you said earlier is if you're a dealership there, maybe hire younger
Salespeople that can come in and do some of this marketing for you. Mix
Mhm.
up your sales team. Have younger people, have older seasoned veterans in there so that they can train them maybe on more sales process
I
while
love
the
that.
younger people are, creating TikToks and Instagrams and Twitters and, keeping up with the social media so that you can have a nice cohesive sales team that can cover all the bases.
Right. Well, I love that. Well, first of all, let me just tell you, I just learned about this TikTok thing. So I'm not even hip to that yet, but I'm learning. It's kind of funky, but I love what you said about cohesiveness and building like a we, right? Having because those older seasoned guys can teach the other young people how to have conversations that they don't like to have. Hence what we said earlier. But I think you have to build it so that it's cohesive is the word, not always thinking it's collab. We don't compete, we collaborate. How do we help each other versus competing? And then I've made my whole dealership divisive because this person's trying to get out, that was my lead, this is my it, versus how do we help each other and we all win in the end, right? I just think,
Yeah.
and technology is such a huge, and repetition, and consistency.
Yeah.
You have to be consistent. It's taken me years, but I'm consistent. You
Yeah.
have to keep the message the same. Where I think that's where you
Absolutely.
guys come in, where you're able to help people do that because we don't have the time. We don't have
Heard
five.
that.
That's
Yeah.
why I think your expertise is so great, and I'm in bringing up this conversation. Because I think that we can continue to grow, but unless we change that conversation, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And that's what we're talking about here on Dealership Digest. Just changing that conversation in your dealership so that you can sell more units to millennial buyers, so that you can compete with Carvana, and so that you can stay alive for the future of your
Dealership.
Yes, and you know what I love about that is Carvana is when somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to Carvana." I'm like, okay, well, think that through, because when you go to Carvana and you're like, "Oh, they just pulled this car up to my," it's not exactly what you wanted. So now you got to go through that whole process to take it back because it's came out of a big gumball machine. You know what I mean? Like that just trips me out. I can't believe that even exists, but it does. And you have to send it all back, and now it's going to cost you more time, and now you wasted, time is money. Their time is valuable. Everybody's time is valuable. It's not just theirs. But so, or do they just say, "Oh, I'm going to accept it because I really don't want to go through all that."
Yeah.
So that's the scary part.
Well, that's definitely some great information. I mean, you've heard it here from Katie, the car lady, today at Dealership Digest, where we just talked about, how to get your dealership ready for the future, how to compete against Carvana. Again, we thank you for being on Dealership Digest with us and sharing this information, because we know this is what the dealerships need to hear.
And I thank you so much for having me. And I know there's so many good guys out there and so many good women out there hustling in this industry. And if they're open to learn something different, you can kill it in this industry. you can kill it. You can make a great living, and it's awesome if you're willing to change maybe the way you think sometimes. That's all.